Introduction. Friends, if you're in the mood for a heartwarming romantic comedy and want to watch the super hit movie A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be, 2025, in English, then you absolutely have to like this video right now. And hey, if this is your first time on our channel, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on the latest updates about your favorite movies, TV shows, and entertainment news. We bring you fun, detailed, and exciting breakdowns of all the latest releases, and today's video is no different. Today, we're diving into a movie that has taken the rom-com world by storm, A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be. From quirky characters and unexpected twists to that perfect blend of humor and romance, this movie has everything that makes it a must-watch. In this video, we're going to talk about what this movie is all about, what makes it so special, and most importantly, where and how you can watch it. Whether you're waiting for it to drop on an OTT platform or wondering if it's coming to a satellite TV channel near you, don't worry, we've got all the details covered. But that's just the beginning. We'll also talk about the technical aspects of the film, including the direction, cinematography, editing, and how the production design helped bring the story to life. The music of this film is another highlight, so we'll discuss the background score, the romantic tracks, and the fun numbers that are already trending online. You'll also get to hear about the entire journey of the movie, from the planning and pre-production stages, all the way through the filming, post-production process, and final touches. Curious about how much it cost to make this film? Or how it's performing at the box office? Don't worry, we'll be covering the full budget details and early box office collections too. And of course, no video would be complete without talking about the actual story. I'll be giving you a small, spoiler-free review of the film's plot and what you can expect in terms of twists, turns, and emotional moments. Plus, we'll talk in detail about the star cast, who's playing whom, which characters stole the spotlight, and how the performances have been received by both fans and critics. There are also some really fun behind-the-scenes facts and trivia that you don't want to miss. Maybe a lead actor almost didn't take the role, or perhaps a key scene was shot in just one take. You'll find out everything in this video. So my dear friends, I highly recommend you watch this video till the very end, because there's a lot to unpack about A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be. Get ready for a fun-filled ride full of love, laughter, and everything in between. Let's get started. Plot and narrative expanded. Alright friends, now it's time to dive deep into the story of A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be, 2025. And trust me, this one's an absolute treat for anyone who loves romantic comedies with heart, humor, and a clever twist on destiny. This film takes a familiar setup, the classic blind date, and turns it into a roller coaster ride of missed chances, second chances, misunderstandings, and unexpected sparks. The movie begins with our leading lady, Riley Bennett, a smart, independent, and slightly sarcastic woman who has officially given up on love after a string of bad relationships and even worse first dates. She's the kind of character you instantly root for because she's real. She's not trying to be perfect. She's just trying to get through life without another dating disaster. Her best friend, tired of seeing her single and stuck, signs her up for a quirky new dating app that promises to find your meant-to-be match based on compatibility, fate, and strangely enough, location history. Riley's reluctant, but eventually agrees to give it a shot, thinking, what's the worst that could happen? Enter Jack Sullivan, a charming, thoughtful, and slightly mysterious guy with a calm presence and a smile that can disarm anyone. Jack is also navigating his own struggles, having recently moved back to the city after a career reset and some personal soul-searching. He's not exactly looking for love either, but fate and the dating app have other plans. Their blind date is set at a cozy little bistro, and from the moment they meet, there's something oddly familiar between them. Not just attraction, something deeper. As the date unfolds, Riley realizes that Jack isn't just a stranger. He's someone she had a brief, memorable encounter with years ago, a random afternoon that stuck in her memory for all the wrong reasons. She remembers the moment as awkward, even humiliating. Jack, on the other hand, remembers it completely differently, as magical, serendipitous, and a moment that quietly shaped him ever since. From here, the movie begins to play with perspective in a really fun and engaging way. Through clever flashbacks and contrasting memories, we see that one simple interaction can have wildly different meanings depending on who's telling the story. These sequences are not just for comedy, though they are hilarious, but they add layers to the characters, showing us their insecurities, their hopes, and how sometimes we misread the most important moments in life. As Riley and Jack spend more time together, they begin to peel back each other's emotional layers. They challenge each other, push each other's buttons, and slowly and awkwardly start to fall for one another. But just when everything seems to be heading toward happily ever after, a twist shakes everything up. Riley discovers that Jack may not have been entirely honest about why he came back to town. And while it's not some evil villain-level secret, it's personal. It's vulnerable. And it forces Riley to question whether this connection is real or just another temporary illusion. Here's where the film shines. Instead of falling into the usual rom-com cliché of a dramatic breakup and grand apology scene, a blind date with my Mr. Meant-to-be opts for growth. Both Riley and Jack retreat into their separate worlds, reflect, and evolve. You see them making decisions not just for each other, but for themselves. The film takes the time to show that real love isn't about fixing each other, it's about understanding each other, supporting growth, and accepting imperfections. Throughout the story, there are plenty of laugh-out-loud moments, a disastrous cooking class, an accidental overnight trip due to a missed train, a wedding where Riley pretends to be Jack's fiancée to avoid an awkward run-in, and even a subplot involving Jack's mischievous niece who's secretly rooting for them to get together. These light moments are perfectly balanced with emotional beats that feel earned, not forced. One of the most satisfying parts of the movie is how everything comes full circle in the final act. Tiny details that seemed unimportant earlier, a line of dialogue, a random object, even a background song, resurface in meaningful ways. The climax doesn't rely on a cheesy speech or a dramatic airport scene. Instead, it brings Riley and Jack back to the place where it all started, not the restaurant, but that forgotten afternoon years ago, and this time they see it for what it really was, the beginning of something. The ending is warm, hopeful, and incredibly satisfying. You leave with a smile, maybe even a few tears, because it reminds you that sometimes life has its own timeline. That love doesn't always arrive when we expect it. And that maybe, just maybe, the universe really does have a plan, even if it takes a few wrong turns and awkward dates to get there. So if you love romantic comedies that are equal parts funny, emotional, and refreshingly clever, A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-be delivers big time. It's a movie about fate, memory, timing, and the beautiful messiness of love. Now let's talk about one of the most enjoyable parts of A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-be, the characters. Oh yes, these aren't your cardboard cutout, rom-com in a box characters who only exist to say quirky one-liners and fall in love in record time. No. These characters are living, breathing people with actual layers, messy emotions, and yes, that sweet awkwardness we all recognize from real life. And that's exactly what makes watching their journey so fun. Let's start with Riley Bennett, the heart and soul of the movie. Riley is the kind of character you instantly connect with, not because she's perfect or ultra-polished, but because she's relatable in the best way. She's got a sharp wit, a little emotional armor, and a serious allergy to romantic cliches. At first glance, she seems like someone who has it all figured out. She's confident, smart, independent, but underneath that cool exterior, she's got doubts, fears, and a history of heartbreak that makes her hesitant to trust, especially when it comes to love. Watching Riley navigate this unexpected blind date and slowly let her guard down is like watching someone defrost from the inside out. You feel every eye roll, every nervous smile, every moment of hesitation. And the best part, her transformation doesn't come from someone swooping in to fix her. It comes from her doing the work, facing her fears, and realizing she's allowed to want love without losing her independence. Now enter Jack Sullivan, possibly the most emotionally intelligent male lead the rom-com genre has seen in a while. Jack is not your typical charming guy who says all the right things. He's soft-spoken, a little awkward, and surprisingly introspective. He's made mistakes, he knows it, and he doesn't hide behind a polished image. What makes Jack interesting is that he's not trying to be the dream guy, he's just trying to be honest. He's someone who's been through a rough patch, who's still figuring things out, and who carries a quiet vulnerability that sneaks up on you. Jack's growth comes from learning to open up without apologizing for his past, and that growth makes his connection with Riley feel earned, not forced. They challenge each other in the best way. They miscommunicate, stumble, and sometimes pull away, but through it all, their relationship builds real tension, not because of drama, but because of how deeply they're learning to care. And let's not forget the side characters. Oh, they're not just comic relief, they're scene stealers. Riley's best friend, Sophie, is the definition of chaotic support. She's a whirlwind of advice, bad date stories, and random motivational quotes, but underneath the energy, she's the emotional anchor in Riley's life. She calls Riley out when she's being guarded and cheers her on when she's brave, which makes her more than just the friend character. Then there's Jack's niece, Mia, a teenage schemer who low-key orchestrates half of Riley and Jack's fate. She's got sass, heart, and a TikTok obsession that somehow becomes a plot device. The supporting characters don't just float around the edges, they influence the choices that drive the story forward, and their relationships with the leads make the world feel lived in. One of the best things about the character development in this film is how no one stays stuck. Even the secondary characters get small arcs that matter. Riley's boss, who seems like a cold-hearted perfectionist at first, ends up revealing a surprisingly tender side. Jack's old friend, who shows up midway through the story with some slightly suspicious intentions, turns out to be more complex than he first appears. These moments give the film emotional texture. Everyone's got something they're hiding, something they're afraid of, and something they're hoping for, and those things slowly unfold, not in dramatic monologues, but in little, beautifully awkward conversations, shared silences, and glances that say more than words. What really makes the character development shine is how it's tied to the theme of timing. Riley and Jack are both people who needed to grow on their own before they could grow together. Their arcs mirror each other without feeling repetitive. Riley starts out guarded and skeptical of love. Jack starts out hopeful but afraid of opening old wounds. By the end, Riley's heart has softened and her perspective on love has shifted, not just because of Jack, but because she finally allows herself to be vulnerable. Jack, on the other hand, finds clarity, strength, and the courage to fully show up for someone without hiding behind the safety of maybe later. So, do the characters undergo meaningful growth? Absolutely. Are their relationships layered and evolving throughout the film? Yes. And does all of this character work make the romantic payoff feel like a total victory lap? Without a doubt. Watching Riley and Jack go from, "Who are you and why are we here?" to "maybe this was meant to be all along," is what makes this movie such a joyful ride. Every awkward pause, every emotional breakthrough, every small moment of connection adds up. And that's what makes these characters not just believable, but unforgettable. Alright, buckle up, because we're diving even deeper into the glorious, full-hearted performances that make A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be not just watchable, but unforgettable. This isn't just a movie where actors read lines and smile on cue. Oh no, this is a full-on performance masterclass where every look, every laugh, every little awkward pause is packed with meaning. The cast doesn't just perform, they live inside these characters. So let's go all in. Let's start again with our leading lady, because wow, the actress playing Riley is doing something truly special. You know when an actor makes you feel like you've known their character for years, like you've had coffee with her, listened to her vent about her love life, texted her after a bad date? That's Riley. Her portrayal is so raw and effortless, it barely feels like acting. She walks this perfect tightrope between independence and vulnerability. One moment, she's throwing out sharp one-liners with impeccable timing, and the next, she's cracking just a little, letting those layers peel back. What's genius about her performance is how internal it is. Her emotions don't just explode in dramatic outbursts. They simmer quietly under the surface. There's a whole emotional storm happening in her eyes, even when she's saying almost nothing. She does so much without words, shifting her body away in discomfort, pausing just a second too long before answering, biting her lip mid-sentence. And every single one of those choices pulls you closer into her world. And the physicality, incredible. Riley is a character who doesn't always say what she's feeling, but you can see it in how she moves. She stiffens when she feels judged. She softens when Jack says something kind without realizing it. She fiddles with her bracelet when she's nervous, which becomes this quiet, recurring motif that makes her feel so real, so human. By the time we get to those later scenes, when she finally opens up and lets herself be seen, you feel every second of it because the actress has earned it. She's taken us on a whole journey without ever needing to over-explain a thing. And speaking of journeys, let's talk about the actor who plays Jack. Now, this is a performance that sneaks up on you. At first glance, Jack might seem like the classic, nice guy with emotional baggage, but the way this actor plays him, so much more nuanced. Jack isn't the guy who walks in and commands the room. He's the guy you notice in the corner, listening, thinking, and occasionally saying something that stops you in your tracks. The performance is beautifully restrained, never forced, never exaggerated. He's a man with a past, and you can see it in the way he avoids certain questions, the way his smile falters just slightly when someone gets too close. And when he does start to open up, it's magic. There's this quiet intensity in the way he looks at Riley, like he's trying to figure her out while also guarding something in himself. One of the best things about his performance is how emotionally available he becomes without ever losing that sense of guardedness. He's a character who wants connection but is afraid to reach for it, and that tug-of-war plays out so subtly in his tone, his pacing, his body language. He doesn't chase big emotional moments. He lets them come naturally, and because of that, his scenes hit harder. There's one particular scene, just a simple conversation on a park bench, that turns into this quiet emotional bombshell, and it works entirely because of how sincere and grounded he is. You believe him. You root for him. You feel for him. That's not easy to pull off, and he nails it. Now let's give a standing ovation to the supporting cast, who honestly deserve their own spotlight. Riley's best friend Sophie, instant fan favorite. She's all energy and sass on the surface, but the actress brings real heart beneath the humor. Every line is delivered with pitch-perfect timing, whether she's dishing out tough love or just launching into a ridiculous story about dating a guy who wore socks with sandals. But what makes Sophie more than just the funny best friend is how she quietly becomes Riley's emotional anchor. There's this one scene where she just sits beside Riley without saying a word. No jokes, no pep talks, just quiet support. And it's so powerful because the actress plays it with such honesty. Then we've got Jack's niece, Mia. Total wildcard and absolute scene stealer. The young actress brings this clever, slightly mischievous charm that lights up every frame she's in. She's not just comic relief either. She's smart, insightful, and more emotionally in tune than half the adults around her. What's amazing is how natural she is. Child characters can often feel scripted or forced, but Mia? Totally believable. Her interactions with Jack add layers to his character, and the way she gently nudges him toward opening up is done with such subtle grace that you almost miss how much she's driving the plot. Also, her delivery? Spot on. Her lines land like little zingers, but they're never overacted. She's a total joy to watch. Even the minor characters bring something memorable. Riley's co-workers, who could have easily been background noise, are given just enough personality to make you believe in her world. One of them has a side plot about a disastrous speed dating experience that somehow turns into this hilariously tragic moment of self-discovery, and the actor playing it delivers with the kind of comedic timing that turns a one-note character into someone you weirdly want to see more of. Jack's former friend turned potential romantic rival adds just the right amount of tension, and the actor manages to walk that fine line between charming and annoying without tipping too far into either direction. So what you end up with is this beautifully calibrated ensemble of performers who all seem to know exactly who their characters are and exactly how they fit into the bigger story. The emotional realism is off the charts. These aren't just actors saying lines. These are people feeling things, hiding things, wrestling with things, and it all unfolds so naturally, so effortlessly, that you forget you're watching a movie. It feels more like eavesdropping on real people navigating love, fear, hope, and second chances. In the end, the performances are the heartbeat of a blind date with my Mr. Meant-to-be. They're what lift the story from being just another romantic comedy to something emotionally rich, funny, bittersweet, and deeply, deeply human. Every performance adds a thread, and together, they weave something you'll want to wrap yourself in again and again. Oh, you want expansion? Great. Because when it comes to the direction of a blind date with my Mr. Meant-to-be, there's so much delicious detail to unpack, it deserves its own fan club. This isn't just directing, this is orchestration. This is the kind of creative vision that sneaks up on you and suddenly makes you realize, wait a minute, why am I emotionally attached to two people painting a wall? That's the director's magic at work. Let's start with how the director sets the emotional temperature of the film and keeps adjusting it so smoothly you barely notice the transition. It starts breezy and light, like a casual afternoon stroll with a stranger who seems kinda interesting. But as the story unfolds, the mood deepens without ever getting heavy. It's like slipping from sunshine into golden hour warmth, still bright, but softer, richer, more emotionally textured. And it's all done with such finesse. You're laughing 1 minute, then suddenly leaning forward, caught in a moment so intimate and raw, you almost feel like you're intruding. That tonal dance is not accidental, it's directed. Every beat, every emotional shift is choreographed to perfection. The film's rhythm is also an unsung hero. The director doesn't stick to the formula of quick scenes, followed by a big dramatic moment. Nope. Instead, the film unfolds like real life, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes hilariously awkward in that way only life can be. There's a bold confidence in how the director lets moments breathe. You'll notice the silences aren't filled with background music or unnecessary dialogue. They're just there, hanging in the air like unspoken thoughts. That kind of pacing, that bravery to just pause, is what gives the film its pulse. You don't feel rushed. You feel immersed. It's like the director is saying, it's okay. Sit with these characters. Be with them. They've got something to show you. And then we get to the visuals. Oh boy, the visuals. The director doesn't just tell a story, they paint it. The cinematography is so deliberately crafted that even the most mundane moments, a walk to the bookstore, a glance across the table, feel cinematic. Take the way colors are used, for example. Early scenes often use cool, muted palettes, soft blues, faded grays, that subtly mirror the emotional distance between the leads. But as Riley and Jack begin to let their walls down, those colors shift. Warmer hues, terracottas, honeyed golds, deep greens start creeping in. It's like the film is visually blooming right along with their relationship. Let's not skip over shot composition, because here's where the director really flexes. This isn't just about pretty pictures. It's about meaning. For instance, Riley is often framed with open windows or reflections when she's wrestling with her emotions, suggesting she's both trapped by her past and on the verge of something new. Jack, on the other hand, is frequently shot from behind in his more vulnerable moments, like we're not allowed to fully see him until he's ready to be seen. And when the two are together, watch how the camera draws them slowly closer, not just physically, but emotionally. The angles change. The framing tightens. It's like their relationship is closing the distance between them, one perfectly composed frame at a time. Oh, and can we talk about how the director plays with space? In the early scenes, there's often an entire couch between Riley and Jack. A hallway. A door. But these barriers start disappearing, not with some grand, swooning romance shot, but gradually, organically. A seat closer. A shared moment. A quiet conversation in a hallway instead of across a room. The visual language evolves as their relationship does, subtle, intentional, brilliant. Stylistically, the director gives the film a slight storybook charm without turning it into a fantasy. It's grounded, real world, real people, but it still feels just a little enchanted. That's achieved through tiny directorial touches, slow motion glances that aren't cheesy but contemplative, gentle dolly shots during emotional exchanges that feel like a heartbeat speeding up. There's a dreamlike fluidity in how the scenes flow into one another, especially during Riley's introspective moments. One standout sequence is a date montage that's less about where they go and more about what they reveal, visually stitched together with almost no dialogue, just lingering shots of smiles, touches, and reactions. It tells you everything you need to know about their deepening bond without spelling out a thing. And flashbacks. This director doesn't just throw in a quick sepia filter and call it a day. These moments are designed like visual echoes, mirrored settings, identical lighting, changes in body language. It's like the past is always just beneath the surface, and the director uses it to draw emotional parallels between where the characters were and where they're heading. That kind of visual storytelling takes thought. It takes intention, and it works beautifully. Another masterstroke, the way the director handles chemistry. That spark between Riley and Jack isn't just about the script. It's in the way the scenes are shaped. Long, uncut takes that let the actors breathe. Reactions that linger just a second longer than they need to. Close-ups that capture the moment someone almost says something important but doesn't. That tension, that push and pull, is built in the editing room and on the set, and the director ensures every glance, every hesitation feels earned. It's romantic, but it's also real. Not just movie love, but messy, hopeful, believable connection. Even background details aren't wasted. The director fills the frame with subtle clues about the characters. Riley's apartment is cozy but slightly chaotic. Mugs with dried tea rings, books half-read, a blanket that always seems slightly askew. Jack's world is neater, almost too neat. A man trying to maintain order in a life that's seen a little too much chaos. These small details aren't just set dressing. They speak. They help tell the story without needing a line of dialogue. And they prove the director is thinking several layers deep. All of this builds into a larger truth. The director isn't just telling you a story, they're inviting you into one. They're shaping an emotional space that feels lived in, where the characters don't just exist, they evolve. You walk away not just remembering what happened, but how it felt. And that's no accident. That's vision. That's direction. And that's the kind of behind-the-scenes artistry that turns a romantic comedy into something genuinely special. Let's talk about the unsung magician behind the curtain, the director. The invisible hand guiding every frame, every glance, every sigh that makes a blind date with my Mr. Meant-to-be feel so effortlessly charming. You know how some films feel like a collection of good scenes, while others feel like a perfectly tuned symphony. This one, it's the latter. And you can thank the director for that. From the very first frame, it's clear that this isn't just someone pointing a camera and calling action. There's real vision here. A tone that's warm, a mood that's dreamy but grounded, and a storytelling rhythm that feels like flipping through the best parts of someone's personal diary. The tone of the film is this magical balance between whimsy and reality. It's got all the sparkle of a classic rom-com but with enough quiet moments and emotional beats to make it feel authentic. That tone doesn't just happen. It's crafted. The director knows exactly when to lean into the comedy, like during a hilariously awkward cooking class scene where everything goes wrong, and exactly when to slow things down and let a quiet look between two people say more than a 5-page monologue ever could. The transitions between laughter and longing are seamless, and that emotional flow is what gives the movie its soul. Now let's get into the visual storytelling because wow, there are some clever choices happening here. The shot composition throughout the film is like visual poetry without being overly showy. There's a recurring use of soft, golden hour lighting in scenes where the characters are opening up or letting their guards down. It's subtle, but it adds this cozy, almost nostalgic glow that makes every emotional exchange feel a little more intimate. Then there's the use of negative space. Yes, space. Like in those early scenes when Riley and Jack are just getting to know each other. They're often placed at opposite ends of the frame, with this emotional distance between them that mirrors how cautious they're both being. But as their connection deepens, that space closes. By the end of the movie, they're often shot in tighter frames together, visually telling you they've bridged that emotional gap without a single word. That kind of detail, that's directorial finesse. The director also plays with pacing like a pro. This movie doesn't rush. It breathes. The story unfolds at the pace of real emotional growth, which means some scenes linger a little longer, letting characters sit in their feelings instead of racing to the next punchline or plot twist. That patience makes the romantic beats land harder. You feel the weight of a long pause. You notice the nervous shuffle of feet before someone admits something personal. It's the kind of pacing that rewards attention and makes even the quietest moments sing. Let's not forget the way the director uses silence. Yes, silence. Not every film knows how to do it, but this one does. There are entire sequences where characters say nothing, and yet you know exactly what's happening emotionally. One scene in particular, where Jack and Riley sit side by side after a particularly vulnerable moment, has no music, no dialogue, just the sound of a passing breeze and a glance that lasts 2 seconds longer than it should. It's intimate, it's honest, and it's unforgettable. That's the power of directorial restraint, knowing when not to fill the space. Stylistically, there's also a charming indie film flavor to the whole thing. It doesn't feel overly polished or manufactured. The locations feel lived in, coffee shops that aren't Pinterest perfect, apartments that look like someone actually lives there, parks that feel like the ones you've walked through 100 times. The director avoids that overly glossy rom-com sheen and instead chooses realism, and that choice pays off big time. It makes the film relatable, grounded, and refreshingly human. Another quiet stroke of brilliance is how the director handles flashbacks and memory sequences. Instead of doing traditional sepia tones or dreamy fades, these moments are framed as visual echoes, the same park bench, the same street corner, but subtly different lighting, slightly different camera angles. It's like the past is still living in the present, shaping everything the characters do now. That visual layering gives the story emotional depth and lets the audience feel the weight of everything these characters are carrying without spoon-feeding it. Alright, let's really peel back the curtain and get cozy with the cinematography of A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be. This film isn't just a pretty face, it's a masterclass in how camera work, lighting, and framing can shape the entire feel of a story without saying a single word. Cinematography here is like the movie's secret language, whispering emotions, teasing tension, and sprinkling in moments of pure visual joy. It's the kind of craftsmanship that makes you realize how much more powerful a story becomes when it's told through images as much as through dialogue. First off, let's talk about the choices in camera angles. From the get-go, the filmmakers use angles to map the emotional landscape between the characters. In the early stages of the relationship between Riley and Jack, you'll notice a lot of wider shots and two shots that put space between them. These shots aren't just practical, they're symbolic. That distance in the frame visually represents their emotional walls and the cautious dance of first impressions. You see them sitting across tables, sometimes framed with physical barriers like chair backs or coffee cups, reinforcing the idea that they're still strangers feeling each other out. But as the story warms up, so does the camera work. The angles get more intimate, the shots tighten in on their faces, and suddenly, the physical and emotional distance collapses. You're drawn in, almost nose to nose with their expressions, catching every flicker of a smile or nervous glance. It's like the camera is your invisible date partner, leaning in closer as the chemistry heats up. Lighting is another superstar in this film's visual storytelling. The cinematographer expertly plays with the emotional cues of light and shadow. In those quiet, vulnerable scenes, like when Riley is reflecting on her past or when Jack's walls begin to crumble, the film bathes them in warm, golden hour light. It's not just beautiful, it's emotionally resonant. That warm glow feels like a soft hug, visually comforting the characters and, by extension, the audience. Contrast that with moments of uncertainty or conflict where cooler, bluer tones dominate. These shifts aren't just about aesthetics, they pull you into the character's inner turmoil. The lighting gently tells you when hearts are open or when fears creep in, without a single line of dialogue spelling it out. Framing is where the cinematography really flexes its storytelling muscles. The director of photography uses reflections with such finesse you might not even notice at first. In one scene, Riley watches Jack through a cafe window, the glass reflecting her conflicted feelings back at her. It's a subtle but powerful visual metaphor that tells you she's caught between hope and hesitation. There are other moments where mirrors and shiny surfaces become emotional storytelling tools, showing characters facing themselves literally and figuratively. This kind of framing adds emotional layers that make the film feel deeper than just your typical romantic comedy. Movement and stillness in the camera work also contribute to the movie's emotional rhythm. The camera gently tracks the characters during their walks or conversations, giving the audience the sensation of walking alongside them, sharing their journey. Then there are scenes where the camera holds perfectly still during tense or quiet moments, pausing on a character's face, letting us linger in their unspoken thoughts. This balance between motion and stillness mimics real-life pacing, creating a feeling that the film breathes just like we do, full of pauses and bursts of energy. Visually, the film is sprinkled with moments that are nothing short of cinematic poetry. Take the rain-soaked street scene, for example. The neon lights reflecting in puddles, the glistening wet pavement, the way headlights flicker across the characters' faces. It's not just pretty, it's an atmospheric symphony. It captures spontaneity, vulnerability, and a sense of living in the moment, all wrapped in a beautiful visual package that feels both intimate and expansive. Depth of field is another subtle but powerful tool here. Sometimes the background blurs out completely, isolating a character's face in razor-sharp focus so we can really lean into their emotions. Other times, both characters stay in perfect focus, visually emphasizing their connection. This play with focus makes the emotional stakes clearer and guides your attention exactly where it needs to be, without shouting or distracting. The cinematography even embraces a touch of playfulness when the story calls for it. Quirky angles and slight zoom-ins pop up during the film's lighter, funnier moments, enhancing comedic timing and emphasizing the character's awkwardness or surprise. It's a visual wink to the audience, reminding us that while this is a heartfelt story, it's also a romp with plenty of charm and humor. Color grading throughout the film evolves subtly but powerfully alongside the story. Early scenes use cooler, muted colors reflecting the cautious, tentative beginnings of the relationship. As Riley and Jack's connection deepens, the palette warms up, bathing scenes in richer oranges, reds, and golds that feel hopeful and alive. This gradual shift in color tone is like a visual heartbeat, quiet at first, then strong and steady, perfectly echoing the emotional journey unfolding on screen. In the end, the cinematography in A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be isn't just a backdrop, it's a co-star. It crafts atmosphere, builds tension, and creates beauty in a way that pulls you inside the story. It's the silent storyteller that makes you feel everything the characters do, often before they even realize it themselves. Every camera angle, every flicker of light, every framing choice is like a little love note written to the audience, inviting you to see, feel, and fall in love along with them. Let's really sink into the editing and pacing of A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be, because this is where the movie's heartbeat truly shows. Editing might be one of those behind-the-scenes heroes that often go unnoticed, but here it's absolutely crucial in shaping how you experience every twist, turn, and tender moment. It's like the film's pulse, controlling how fast or slow you feel things, when you get to laugh, when you pause for thought, and when your emotions swell or settle. From the very first scenes, you'll notice how smoothly everything flows. The editors have a knack for creating transitions that feel completely natural, no sudden jarring cuts or awkward shifts to yank you out of the story. Instead, you're gliding through scenes like you're being gently led by the hand. Sometimes that means using subtle crossfades that blur one moment into the next, giving a dreamy, reflective quality to certain emotional beats. Other times, there are clever match cuts, where something in one scene visually or thematically links to the next, a hand reaching out, a look exchanged, or even the same color palette, keeping the storytelling visually coherent and emotionally resonant. It's this seamless stitching together that helps the movie feel like one beautiful, unfolding story rather than a patchwork of scenes. Now, pacing is where the film really shows off its storytelling smarts. Romance, especially the kind with the awkward, funny, and sweet moments like this one, needs to feel real. And real relationships have their own rhythm, sometimes fast and exciting, sometimes slow and full of hesitation or reflection. The editors absolutely get that. They let the film breathe when it needs to, in those quiet, lingering moments where Riley or Jack might be lost in thought, or when a tender glance lingers just a second longer, inviting you to share that unspoken connection. These slow beats are like emotional breaths that deepen your investment in the characters. They give you space to feel, to imagine, to relate. And trust me, they never overstay their welcome. Then, when the story calls for a burst of energy, maybe a sudden misunderstanding, a quirky mishap, or a montage of dates, the pace kicks up a notch. The cuts become quicker, the scenes snappier, and the tempo more playful. This shift makes the comedic elements pop, turning moments of awkwardness or surprise into pure entertainment gold. The editing plays with timing brilliantly here, holding just the right pause before a punchline or reaction shot, making those laughs hit harder. It's like the editors have a finely tuned sense of comedic timing that complements the performances perfectly. What's really impressive is how the pacing evolves alongside the characters' emotional journeys. At the start, when Riley and Jack are still strangers feeling each other out, the film takes a measured, almost cautious approach. Scenes unfold with gentle patience, mirroring their tentative steps toward trust and connection. As their relationship grows, the editing picks up the tempo, mirroring the excitement and nervous energy that comes with new love. Fast cuts and lively montages give a sense of time passing, experiences piling up, and emotions accelerating. But then, when the story introduces moments of doubt, vulnerability, or conflict, the pace slows again, allowing those feelings to settle and resonate. This ebb and flow keeps the emotional stakes fresh and real, never letting you get bored or overwhelmed. Montages deserve a special shout-out here because they're handled with a breezy, joyful energy that feels just right for the genre. Whether it's a series of fun dates, cute conversations over coffee, or text exchanges, the montages condense time while keeping the emotional thread intact. They're edited in a way that feels lighthearted and warm, like a visual shorthand for the growing connection, giving you that this is really happening feeling without dragging on. And it's not just about cutting between scenes. The editors also know when to let sounds and music breathe alongside the visuals. The rhythm of the soundtrack, the rise and fall of ambient noise, and the timing of dialogue all sync up with the cuts to create an immersive, emotionally charged flow. You feel the beats of a story not just visually, but in your bones. In short, the editing and pacing here do much more than move the story forward, they shape your entire experience. They pull you closer to the characters, make you laugh when you need it, slow down to let emotions sink in, and speed up when the story demands excitement. It's a finely tuned dance of timing and rhythm that makes a blind date with my Mr. Meant-to-Be feel vibrant, alive, and utterly engaging from the very first frame to the last. The soundtrack and score of A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be are truly one of the film's secret weapons, working quietly yet powerfully behind the scenes to shape the entire emotional landscape and atmosphere. Music in a romantic comedy can sometimes feel like background fluff, but here it's anything but. It's crafted with care and precision, a thoughtful blend of melodies, rhythms, and silences that elevate the story and deepen the connection between you and the characters. From the very first note, the score sets the tone, inviting you in with warmth, charm, and just the right dash of whimsy. What really stands out is how perfectly the soundtrack matches the film's emotional beats. During the softer, more intimate scenes, the music becomes almost like a gentle heartbeat underneath everything. Think delicate piano lines, tender acoustic guitar strums, or soft strings that wrap around the dialogue and performances like a warm embrace. These moments don't rely on sweeping, dramatic scores but instead opt for subtlety, letting the music whisper rather than shout. It's a clever choice that helps create that feeling of genuine intimacy and vulnerability, like you're not just watching Riley and Jack fall for each other but feeling it alongside them. That kind of emotional layering through music adds a lot of depth without a single word being spoken. But the soundtrack isn't all slow and sweet. It's got plenty of lively, upbeat tunes that add a lot of personality and energy, especially during the fun, awkward, or lighthearted parts of the film. When things get quirky or humorous, like those classic rom-com mishaps or playful banter, the music jumps into a brighter, more playful gear. Bouncy rhythms, catchy melodies, and sometimes even a little bit of jazzy or pop flair come in to keep the tone light and engaging. These tunes don't just fill space, they actively enhance the comedic timing and overall feel-good vibe of the movie. The soundtrack almost feels like a character itself, encouraging you to smile along and enjoy the ride. One of the most interesting techniques the film uses is recurring motifs, little musical phrases or themes that pop up at key moments and evolve as the story progresses. For example, a melody introduced in a shy, tentative scene might later reappear more fully orchestrated or with a new twist when the characters are more confident or emotionally open. These motifs create a musical thread that runs throughout the film, linking scenes together emotionally and giving the soundtrack a satisfying sense of cohesion. It's like the music is telling its own story, mirroring the growth and transformation of the characters in a way that's subtle but deeply effective. Another really masterful element is the use of silence. You'd be surprised how much power is packed into the absence of music here. The film knows when to dial everything back and let a scene breathe in quiet, sometimes leaving just the natural ambient sounds, a nervous breath, footsteps, or the rustle of clothing. These quiet moments feel incredibly intentional, creating space for the audience to lean in and really absorb the emotional weight of a glance, a confession, or a pause in conversation. It's a bold choice because in a romantic comedy, you might expect music to fill every moment, but here the silence adds texture and emotional honesty, making those moments hit harder and feel more real. The balance between score, soundtrack, and ambient sound is handled with such finesse that everything blends effortlessly. You never get the feeling that the music is overpowering the actors or the dialogue. Instead, it supports the performances and enhances the mood without ever distracting you. It's like the music is the perfect background layer in a painting. It brings the colors and details to life without stealing the spotlight from the main subjects. Whether it's soft music underscoring a heartfelt confession or a lively track during a montage of dates, the sound design is always perfectly tuned to the moment. Speaking of montages, the music here plays a big role in those sequences, turning them into joyous celebrations of connection and growth. The soundtrack picks up pace and energy, with bright, catchy tunes that compress time while keeping the emotional warmth intact. These montages don't just move the story forward quickly, they're fun, feel-good bursts that add rhythm and sparkle to the narrative, making you feel like you're sharing in the couple's excitement and adventure. There's also a subtle but effective use of musical cues to build tension or anticipation. For example, before a big reveal or a moment of uncertainty, you might notice the music shifting slightly, maybe a soft but insistent repeating note or a gradual swell in the instrumentation. These cues heighten your emotional engagement without being heavy-handed, preparing you subconsciously for what's coming next. And when the tension breaks, say, when a misunderstanding is resolved or a romantic gesture happens, the music shifts to something lighter, more joyous, or tender, giving you that satisfying emotional payoff. In essence, the soundtrack and score don't just accompany a blind date with my Mr. Meant-to-be, they're an integral part of the storytelling itself. They create atmosphere, highlight emotions, and add layers of meaning that words and visuals alone might miss. The music's ebb and flow mirror the character's journey, inviting you to laugh, swoon, and feel every awkward, sweet, and heartwarming moment right along with them. It's this thoughtful, nuanced approach to music that helps the film feel alive, charming, and truly memorable. Beneath the bubbly surface and charming antics of a blind date with my Mr. Meant-to-be, the film is quietly weaving together some surprisingly rich and relatable themes that give it more depth than your typical romantic comedy. It's like finding a hidden layer of meaning tucked inside a cupcake, sweet and delightful on the outside, but with a satisfying, thoughtful center that makes you appreciate the whole experience even more. The movie doesn't just hand you easy answers about love and relationships. Instead, it invites you to reflect on what it really means to find connection in today's complicated world, all while keeping the tone light and fun. One of the central themes playing out here is the age-old debate of fate versus free will. The title itself hints at destiny and meant-to-be romances, but the movie smartly refuses to simplify love as just a stroke of cosmic luck. Instead, it shows the messy dance between chance encounters and conscious choices, reminding us that love is as much about taking risks and opening yourself up as it is about destiny doing its thing. It's refreshing to see a film acknowledge that while it's fun to think of love as fate, the real magic comes from people actively deciding to trust, commit, and grow together. This dynamic keeps the story grounded in reality, showing that even when sparks fly, there's a lot of work and vulnerability behind the scenes. Closely tied to this is the theme of self-discovery and personal growth, which the film handles with surprising nuance. Both main characters, Riley and Jack, aren't just looking for a partner, they're on journeys to better understand themselves, their desires, and their fears. Their awkward moments, hesitations, and insecurities aren't just for laughs, they serve as important stepping stones in their individual development. The film suggests that before you can fully embrace a relationship, you need to figure out who you are and what you want out of life. It's an honest take on modern romance that many can relate to, where love isn't just about the other person, but also about growing as an individual. This theme adds emotional layers to what could have otherwise been a straightforward rom-com plot. Communication, or its frequent absence, is another big idea the movie plays with in a way that feels refreshingly realistic. The story is peppered with moments of miscommunication, silent misunderstandings, and missed cues that cause tension but also create humor and relatability. Instead of glossing over these moments, the film leans into them, showing how common it is for people to fumble, hesitate, or misread each other in relationships. This exploration of communication challenges adds a charming human element to the story, emphasizing that relationships aren't perfect fairy tales but messy, imperfect, and often hilarious journeys that require patience, listening, and forgiveness. One of the most heartwarming themes is the celebration of imperfections. Riley and Jack aren't picture-perfect characters. They come with quirks, baggage, and flaws that make their connection feel genuine and authentic. The film embraces the idea that true love isn't about finding a flawless partner, but someone whose imperfections fit yours just right. This message about embracing messy, imperfect humanity adds a layer of warmth and realism, setting the movie apart from many romantic comedies that lean heavily on idealized portrayals of love. It's a reminder that vulnerability and acceptance are what make relationships truly special. The film also gives a nod to the importance of community and support systems in the journey of love. Friends and family aren't just background characters here. They play a meaningful role in shaping the protagonist's experiences, offering advice, encouragement, and sometimes comic relief. This theme highlights how love doesn't happen in isolation. It's often influenced and enriched by the people around us. These supporting relationships add depth and humor to the story, making the romantic journey feel more complete and grounded in real life. What's impressive is how the film balances these thoughtful themes without ever feeling heavy-handed or preachy. Instead, it wraps its messages in humor, heart, and a bit of whimsy, making them feel like a natural part of the story rather than a lecture. The screenplay trusts the audience's intelligence, weaving in these ideas organically through character moments and plot developments rather than spelling everything out. This subtlety makes the film enjoyable on multiple levels. You can watch it just for the laughs and romance, but if you pay attention, you'll find plenty to reflect on. Another layer to the themes is the idea of timing, not just the romantic kind but the broader sense of timing in life. The film gently suggests that sometimes the right person comes along at the right moment, but that right moment can only be recognized when you're ready. It's about patience, timing, and sometimes letting go of control to allow things to unfold naturally. This theme is handled with a light touch but resonates deeply, especially for anyone who's ever felt rushed or pressured in love. The film also plays with the notion of expectations versus reality. Many scenes highlight how what people imagine or hope for in love often doesn't match the awkward, messy, and unpredictable reality, and that's okay. This honest look at love's ups and downs encourages viewers to embrace the imperfect, unscripted moments that often turn out to be the most meaningful. It's a refreshing break from the polished, perfect romance cliches and helps keep the story grounded and relatable. Overall, the themes and messages in A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be are quietly powerful. They deepen the story, enrich the characters, and offer viewers something to chew on beyond the cute meet-cuties and laugh-out-loud moments. It's a film that manages to be both entertaining and thought-provoking, wrapping up timeless ideas about love, growth, and connection in a package that feels fresh, genuine, and utterly enjoyable. It's the kind of movie that leaves you smiling but also nudges you to think a little about what it really means to find your meant-to-be. When you think about visual effects and CGI in a romantic comedy like A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be, you might not expect them to be a major player, but that's exactly where this film surprises you. Instead of going for the big, flashy effects you see in action blockbusters or fantasy epics, the movie takes a much more subtle and smart approach. The visual effects are woven gently into the fabric of the story, enhancing the narrative and the humor without ever stealing the spotlight or feeling out of place. It's almost like the effects are shy sidekicks, quietly doing their job, adding a little extra flavor, but never demanding the center stage. One of the standout things about the film's approach to visual effects is how naturally they blend with the world it builds. The story takes place in very real, everyday settings, coffee shops, apartments, parks, and the effects are designed to complement these grounded environments. Whether it's a little digital sparkle to highlight a character's daydream or a subtle background touch that amplifies a comedic moment, the CGI is almost invisible in the best way possible. It doesn't shout, "Look, here's a cool effect." Instead, it feels like a natural part of the scene, like it was always meant to be there. This kind of seamless integration helps maintain the film's intimate, relatable vibe, allowing viewers to stay immersed in the character's world without being jolted out by flashy visuals. The film also strikes a really smart balance between practical effects and digital enhancements. The practical effects, think of the kind you can physically touch or see happening in real time on set, give the film a tangible, authentic feel. From simple props to carefully constructed sets, these elements provide the actors with something real to interact with, which often results in more genuine performances. There's a satisfying texture and depth that practical effects bring, grounding the story in a world you can almost reach out and touch. This tactile quality is important for a film so focused on human connection because it makes the emotions and interactions feel more believable. Then you have the CGI, which steps in mostly to polish and add subtle touches rather than dominate the visuals. For example, some scenes might use digital effects to emphasize a character's imagination or internal thoughts, adding a playful or whimsical edge without overwhelming the scene. These little digital flourishes might be a sparkle in someone's eye, a soft glow around a romantic moment, or a cleverly timed visual gag that enhances the humor. These choices show a real understanding of how CGI can serve a story, not as an end in itself, but as a storytelling tool that deepens the mood and emotional resonance. What's particularly impressive is how the film avoids the common trap of overusing CGI just to impress. Instead, the effects team has clearly focused on restraint and purpose. Each effect has a reason to be there, whether to heighten a feeling, underline a joke, or subtly guide the audience's attention. This thoughtful use of effects keeps the film feeling fresh and modern, but also warm and intimate. The digital effects never feel like they're compensating for weak storytelling or acting. Instead, they complement the strong performances and heartfelt script, making the whole experience richer. Another layer to appreciate is how the visual effects work hand in hand with the film's tone and pacing. The effects aren't flashy distractions, but quiet enhancements that support the story's rhythm. They help build atmosphere in just the right moments, like adding a bit of magic to a romantic glance or making a comedic beat land just a little sharper. Because of this, the visual effects contribute to the storytelling in a way that feels effortless and natural, even if viewers don't consciously notice every detail. It's the kind of craft that's invisible when done well, but makes a big difference in how the movie feels overall. The respect shown toward practical effects and the actors' performances is another sign of the film's balanced approach. CGI here doesn't try to fix or mask anything, but instead works alongside real elements to enhance what's already there. This kind of collaboration between practical and digital effects preserves the film's authenticity and allows the emotional beats to shine through without artificial interference. All in all, A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be demonstrates that visual effects don't have to be loud or spectacular to be effective. Sometimes, subtlety is the best way to go, especially in a story that's all about the small, meaningful moments in life and love. The blend of practical effects and carefully placed CGI adds polish and depth without ever overshadowing the heart of the film. It's a great example of how modern filmmaking techniques can be used thoughtfully to enhance a story's warmth, humor, and relatability, making the viewing experience all the more enjoyable without the need for eye-popping spectacle. When it comes to set design and locations in A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be, the film truly shines by creating a world that feels both inviting and refreshingly authentic. This isn't one of those movies where the environments look overly polished or artificial. Instead, every place you see on screen is bursting with personality and subtle storytelling details that make you feel like you've stepped into a real slice of life, where these quirky, relatable characters live, laugh, and fumble their way through romance. The production design does something special here. It doesn't just serve as a backdrop, it actively participates in the story, giving texture and emotional resonance to the characters' journeys. Starting with the interior spaces, the film invests a lot of love in making the locations feel lived in and personal. The coffee shop scenes, which pop up multiple times, aren't your typical film cafe cliches. Instead, they're cozy little havens filled with eclectic decor, warm lighting, and quirky touches. Think hand-painted signs, mismatched chairs, and shelves overflowing with books and vintage knickknacks. It's the kind of place where you can imagine the baristas knowing customers by name and where the aroma of fresh coffee mingles with laughter and whispered conversations. These details make the coffee shop feel like an essential character in the film, a cozy meeting ground where sparks fly and awkward small talk unfolds with genuine charm. Then there are the apartments and homes, which feel incredibly well thought out. The production design cleverly uses each living space to reveal the inner world of the characters without them having to say a word. Riley's apartment, for example, is a treasure trove of personality. Art prints with bold colors hang on the walls, piles of books hint at a curious mind, and cozy textiles give the space a warm, inviting feel. It's clear that Riley is someone who values creativity and comfort, and this environment mirrors her independent yet hopeful spirit. On the flip side, Jack's apartment reflects his more laid-back and casual approach to life. The furniture is simple but tasteful, with little humorous touches that speak to his playful nature, a cleverly framed poster, a shelf of vinyl records, or a vintage camera placed just so. These design choices make their personal spaces feel like natural extensions of who they are, helping the audience connect with the characters on a deeper level. Outdoor locations also play a vital role in the storytelling, bringing freshness and visual variety to the film. The park scenes, for instance, are more than just pretty settings. They breathe life and energy into the story. The way sunlight filters through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the paths, sets a romantic yet relaxed mood perfect for the tentative exchanges between the leads. The natural surroundings offer a beautiful contrast to the more confined indoor scenes, symbolizing the openness and possibility of new connections. Plus, the casual passersby and ambient city sounds create a realistic urban backdrop that grounds the film in the real world. Props, often overlooked in many films, get special attention here, serving as little narrative gems that enrich the story. The objects the characters interact with, from a quirky coffee mug with a cheeky slogan to a carefully chosen book or a sentimental gift, feel like extensions of their personalities and relationships. These props aren't just set dressing, they spark conversations, trigger memories, and sometimes even become punchlines. Their thoughtful placement adds layers of meaning and humor that make the scenes more engaging and authentic. Color palettes used in the set design deserve a mention too, as they subtly guide the emotional tone throughout the film. Warm, earthy tones dominate many of the interiors, creating an inviting and cozy atmosphere that complements the romantic comedy's feel-good vibe. These colors shift gently with the mood of the scenes. Soft pastels during tender moments, brighter hues when things get playful or awkward, helping to visually cue the audience's feelings without needing extra dialogue. This careful use of color makes the environments feel emotionally connected to the story, adding an unspoken richness that enhances the viewing experience. Another aspect worth highlighting is how the production design team balances realism with a touch of whimsy. While everything feels believable and grounded, there's always a hint of charm or quirky detail that keeps the visuals fresh and engaging. This approach prevents the film's world from becoming dull or generic, instead giving it a unique identity that feels both familiar and delightfully unexpected. What's really impressive is how all these elements, the locations, the sets, the props, and the colors, come together to form a cohesive and immersive world that never feels disjointed. Each scene feels connected to the next, building a believable environment that supports the story's themes of connection, awkwardness, and hope. This cohesion helps the audience feel like they're not just watching a story unfold but actually stepping into the lives of the characters, sharing their spaces, and experiencing their highs and lows alongside them. In a movie centered on the unpredictable roller coaster of blind dates and budding relationships, having settings that feel genuine and relatable is essential. A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be nails this with its carefully crafted environments that resonate with warmth and personality. The film set design and locations don't just provide a pretty picture, they deepen the emotional impact and invite viewers to root for the characters in a world that feels as real and wonderfully imperfect as the people in it. It's this thoughtful, detailed approach to production design that quietly elevates the entire film, making every moment on screen richer, more engaging, and most importantly, fun to watch. When it comes to set design and locations in A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be, the film doesn't just give you pretty backgrounds. It invites you into a world so rich and textured that it practically feels like you're stepping inside the lives of the characters themselves. It's like the movie's environments are whispering little secrets about who these people are, adding layers of meaning and warmth that go beyond what the dialogue tells you. The attention to detail is downright impressive, making every scene pop with a natural charm that's both cozy and visually engaging. Take the coffee shop scenes as a perfect example. This isn't some sterile, cookie-cutter coffee spot with uniform tables and plain walls. No, this place has personality dripping from every corner. You notice the slightly worn wooden tables, mismatched chairs, quirky handwritten chalkboard menus, and shelves packed with quirky books and local art. The lighting is soft and inviting, creating that golden glow that makes you want to curl up with a cup of coffee and linger a little longer. The space feels like it's been curated by people who care about community, creativity, and a little bit of magic in everyday moments, which perfectly matches the film's tone. This isn't just a setting, it's a warm little cocoon where awkward flirtations, nervous jokes, and real conversations bloom. Then there are the apartments, which are characters in their own right. Riley's apartment is an extension of her vibrant, independent personality. The mix of bold art prints, stacks of books, cozy throws, and quirky knickknacks scattered around feel personal and inviting. Every object, from the quirky coffee mugs in the kitchen to the plants perched on the windowsill, adds to the story of who she is. Creative, a bit quirky, grounded, and full of life. It's a space that's lived in, loved, and a little imperfect, just like Riley herself. On the other side, Jack's apartment tells a different story. It's simpler, a little more minimalist, but with subtle, thoughtful touches that hint at his personality. Maybe it's a framed vinyl record, a well-worn camera, or a carefully chosen poster that adds humor or nostalgia. These details speak volumes about Jack's laid-back, thoughtful nature, and hint at his past without needing exposition. The apartments aren't just places to crash, they're visual stories that deepen our connection to the characters. The outdoor locations play their part too, offering a fresh breath of life and visual variety. The park scenes are sprinkled with sunshine filtering through trees, casual passers-by, and the comforting hum of city life. These open-air moments contrast beautifully with the tighter, more intimate indoor scenes, symbolizing freedom, possibility, and new beginnings. The way the film captures natural light and candid movement in these settings creates a vibrant, hopeful mood that fits perfectly with the tentative steps of a new romance. Props in the film are another unsung hero. They're not random objects tossed in just to fill space. Instead, they're carefully chosen storytelling tools that add humor, meaning, and emotional depth. Whether it's a funny coffee mug that breaks the ice, a well-thumbed book that sparks a conversation, or a gift wrapped with care that holds emotional significance, each prop plays a part in making scenes richer and more relatable. They add texture and layers without calling attention to themselves, which is a mark of great production design. Color plays a subtle but important role as well. The warm, earthy palettes inside homes and cafes create a sense of comfort and intimacy, while pops of brighter colors add energy and fun during lighter moments. These color choices guide the viewer's emotional response, amplifying feelings of warmth, awkwardness, or excitement without needing extra words. It's a clever, visual storytelling method that adds a whole other dimension to the movie's mood. What's truly impressive is how all these elements come together seamlessly. The sets, the props, the colors, and the locations don't feel like disjointed pieces. Instead, they weave into a cohesive, believable world that enhances the story without ever overshadowing it. This creates an immersive experience where you're not just watching a story unfold, you're stepping inside a world that feels lived in, loved, and endlessly charming. For a romantic comedy about the messy, sweet, sometimes awkward dance of meeting someone new, these thoughtful design choices make all the difference. They create a warm, inviting space where every glance, every hesitation, and every laugh feels authentic and meaningful. The set design and locations don't just set the stage, they bring the heart of the film to life, making every moment feel richer, more real, and more fun to watch. What's really interesting about A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be is how it sprinkles in social and cultural commentary without ever making you feel like you're sitting through a lecture or a heavy-handed message. Instead, these themes are woven smoothly into the story, like a secret sauce that adds flavor and depth without overpowering the main dish, the romance. The film knows its primary goal is to entertain and make you feel good, but it also takes some clever little detours that touch on real, relevant issues that quietly resonate. For starters, the movie taps into the modern dating landscape in a way that feels refreshingly authentic. It's not just about love and chemistry. It's about navigating the sometimes confusing, often awkward world of dating apps, blind dates, and social expectations. You get a sense of how technology shapes our connections today, how it can both bring people together and create barriers of anxiety, misunderstanding, and even superficial judgments. These moments come through naturally in conversations and situations, never feeling like they were shoehorned in just to tick a box about modern issues. The film also plays with ideas about vulnerability and emotional honesty in today's fast-paced, image-conscious culture. Both leads grapple with putting their true selves out there, peeling back layers of self-protection that many of us recognize from our own experiences. It's a subtle but important commentary on how societal pressure to appear perfect or together can make genuine connection feel scary or risky. The film doesn't preach, but shows the struggle through relatable moments of awkwardness and openness, making the emotional stakes feel real and meaningful. Another layer worth noting is how the film embraces diversity and inclusivity, not just in casting but in the stories it tells about family, friendship, and personal growth. The characters come from different backgrounds, and the movie celebrates these differences in a way that feels effortless and natural. It reflects a cultural shift towards recognizing and appreciating a broader spectrum of experiences without ever drawing attention to it as a statement. This helps the story feel richer and more grounded in today's world. When it comes to sensitive topics, the movie shows a lot of care and nuance. Instead of glossing over moments of doubt, anxiety, or cultural tension, it treats them with respect and understanding. These themes are handled with a light touch that avoids melodrama but still acknowledges the real emotional complexity involved. The balance is impressive. There's enough depth to make you think without disrupting the fun, hopeful tone that keeps you smiling through the story. What's delightful is how the film uses humor as a tool for commentary. It laughs with the characters, not at them, highlighting the absurdities and challenges of dating and relationships in our culture. This playful tone makes the commentary feel accessible and relatable, inviting the audience to reflect without feeling overwhelmed or defensive. Ultimately, the social and cultural commentary in A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be acts like a friendly conversation rather than a sermon. It's there beneath the surface, enriching the story and giving it a modern heartbeat, but it never gets in the way of the laughs, the romance, and the sweet moments that make the film such a pleasure to watch. It's a smart, gentle reminder that even lighthearted romantic comedies can say something meaningful about the world we live in, and do it with style and heart. When it comes to audience engagement, A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be is like that friend who knows exactly how to keep you hooked, laughing, and invested from start to finish. The film doesn't just present a story and let it roll past. It pulls you in and wraps you up in the emotional highs and lows in a way that feels genuinely heartfelt and fun at the same time. You're not just watching two people stumble through dating, you're right there with them, feeling every awkward glance, every hopeful smile, and every tiny victory or cringeworthy moment like it's happening to you. There are scenes designed to spark laughter out loud, those perfectly timed awkward silences, the hilarious misunderstandings, and the little quirks that feel so universal in dating. But it doesn't stop at comedy. The film knows when to hit you with moments of tenderness that sneak up and catch you off guard. Suddenly, you're caught in a quiet scene where a glance or a simple gesture says more than words ever could, and you find yourself feeling that bittersweet flutter that only a great romantic movie can deliver. It's this emotional roller coaster that keeps you fully engaged, never allowing the story to drift into predictability or boredom. And yes, there are moments that might pull at your heartstrings too, whether it's a moment of vulnerability between the leads or a glimpse into their personal fears and hopes. These emotional beats are handled with a gentle touch, making them feel authentic rather than manipulative. You might even find yourself wiping away an unexpected tear or two because the film captures that complicated mix of hope and uncertainty in relationships so well. The excitement factor is there as well. From the first awkward encounter to the little surprises sprinkled throughout, the film keeps the energy lively and fresh. You're curious to see what's going to happen next, rooting for the characters while also appreciating the honest portrayal of modern romance, complete with all its messiness and charm. The pacing and storytelling create a rhythm that invites you to lean in, not check out. What's great about A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be is that it invites more than just passive watching. It sparks conversation, whether you find yourself chatting about your own dating disasters, debating what the characters should have done differently, or sharing the moments that hit closest to home. It's the kind of movie that makes you want to watch it again, catch those subtle details you missed the first time, and maybe even share it with friends who just have to see this one. The film's ability to connect emotionally also makes it a cozy pick for rewatching, especially when you need a feel-good lift or a reminder that love, in all its awkward and wonderful forms, is worth rooting for. The characters' relatable struggles and joy stick with you, leaving a warm glow that lasts beyond the closing credits. So in terms of audience engagement, this movie doesn't just deliver a story, it creates an experience. It's a charming mix of laughter, heart, and genuine moments that keep you emotionally invested, inviting you to laugh, feel, and think along with the characters long after the screen goes dark. When you start stacking A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be alongside other romantic comedies, it's like comparing a classic favorite dish with a new recipe that's been sprinkled with unexpected spices. It shares the comforting familiarity of the genre, the meet-cute, the awkward moments, the emotional ups and downs, but what really sets it apart is the way it shakes up the formula just enough to feel fresh and exciting without losing that beloved rom-com charm. If you think back to films like The Proposal or Crazy Rich Asians, this movie doesn't stray far from those crowd-pleasing ingredients: charismatic leads, witty banter, and a healthy dose of romantic tension. But what it adds is a modern sensibility that feels more grounded in today's dating culture, less fairy tale, more real life. The awkwardness isn't just for laughs. It's layered with vulnerability and self-discovery, which gives the story a deeper emotional core than some of its predecessors. Looking at the director's previous work, you can spot the signature style creeping in, the knack for blending humor with heart, and for creating characters that feel lived in rather than caricatures. But here, there's an extra layer of maturity in how relationships are portrayed. Unlike some rom-coms that lean heavily on predictable plot twists, this film embraces unpredictability in a way that keeps you guessing without sacrificing warmth. It's like the director took the best parts of their past successes and added a little something more thoughtful and nuanced. Compared to the flood of formulaic rom-coms that sometimes feel like copy-paste jobs, this movie is a breath of fresh air because it refuses to settle into cliché territory completely. Instead of relying on overdone tropes like love at first sight or grand romantic gestures, it explores the subtle, messy, everyday moments that actually build a relationship. This makes it feel more authentic and relatable, especially for viewers who know that real romance often looks less like a Hollywood spectacle and more like a series of small, imperfect steps. Even when you put it side by side with recent hits in the genre, it stands out for its playful yet sincere tone. The humor doesn't just land for cheap laughs. It's clever, character-driven, and often self-aware, which helps the film avoid feeling outdated or overly saccharine. The pacing and chemistry between the leads rival some of the best on-screen pairings in rom-com history, making it an entertaining watch from start to finish. Overall, if you're someone who loves romantic comedies but sometimes feels like you've seen it all before, this film offers a nice balance of comfort and surprise. It honors the genre's roots while adding enough new flavor to make you sit up and take notice. It's like a cozy old sweater with a bold new pattern, familiar yet fresh, classic but with its own unique twist. One of the most intriguing things about A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be is how it sprinkles in symbolism and metaphors that sneak past you the first time but add a whole new layer when you start to notice them. It's like the film is playing a gentle game of hide-and-seek with meaning, using visual cues and recurring motifs that aren't shouted from the rooftops but quietly deepen the story's emotional texture. Take, for example, the recurring imagery of mirrors and reflections throughout the film. At first glance, these might seem like just a cool stylistic choice, maybe to show off a nice shot or two, but they actually work on a symbolic level, highlighting the character's journey of self-discovery and the sometimes blurry line between how we see ourselves and how others see us. Each reflective surface is almost a moment of pause, a chance for the characters to confront their fears, hopes, or the versions of themselves they're still trying to understand. It's a clever visual metaphor for the emotional work of dating, where you're constantly adjusting and reevaluating who you are and who you want to be with. Then there's the frequent use of weather, particularly rain, which pops up at key moments. Rain here isn't just about setting the mood or making things look pretty, it's a metaphor for cleansing and renewal. When the characters are caught in the rain, it's often a moment of vulnerability and honesty, like the storm is washing away pretenses and revealing something more genuine underneath. It adds a poetic rhythm to the narrative, reminding us that growth sometimes comes after a little chaos or discomfort. Another subtle motif is the recurring appearance of clocks and timepieces, which ties neatly into the film's theme of timing and love. Whether it's a wristwatch, a wall clock, or even just a ticking sound in the background, these moments emphasize how much timing matters, not just in the plot, but in real life. It's about those serendipitous moments where everything aligns, or the frustrating times when it feels like the universe is conspiring against you. This motif adds a layer of tension and anticipation, making the viewer more aware of how fleeting and precious these romantic opportunities are. Colors play their own symbolic role too. The film uses warm tones during scenes of connection and hope, while cooler, muted palettes dominate moments of doubt or introspection. This color coding isn't just for visual appeal. It subtly guides your emotional response, making you feel the shifts in mood without a word being spoken. It's a neat little way the film talks to you on a subconscious level, reinforcing the emotional beats through visual storytelling. Even small props carry metaphorical weight. A particular necklace or a book might pop up at meaningful times, acting like tiny anchors in the story that carry emotional significance beyond their surface appearance. These little details reward attentive viewers and add richness to the experience, encouraging you to look closer and find the hidden layers beneath the surface. All of these symbolic and metaphorical elements come together to create a storytelling experience that's playful yet profound. They invite you to engage more deeply, not just following the plot but feeling the undercurrents of meaning that ripple through every scene. It's like the film is whispering secrets to you, offering a richer, more textured understanding of love, identity, and connection if you're willing to pay attention. Since A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be isn't part of a larger franchise or series, it's free to carve out its own unique space without the weight of previous installments hanging over it. This independence gives the film a fresh canvas to paint its story without having to answer to any existing mythology or backstory. It's like a standalone novel in a sea of sequels and reboots, which means it doesn't rely on franchise familiarity to engage its audience. It stands on its own charm and storytelling. But even without franchise ties, the movie taps into a long tradition of romantic comedies and relationship stories, adding its own contemporary twist to the genre's history. It feels like a loving nod to the classics while updating them for today's dating scene. Instead of the grand, sweeping gestures or larger-than-life drama seen in older rom-coms, this film dives into the more intimate, nuanced experiences of modern love, reflecting the complexities and quirks of today's world. If you think about the evolution of romantic comedies, this film slots neatly into that transition from traditional rom-com formulas towards stories that feel more real and relatable. It doesn't shy away from showing imperfect characters with messy emotions, instead of polished, flawless leads. That shift marks a subtle but important moment in the genre's history, where audiences are craving authenticity over fantasy, and this movie embraces that shift wholeheartedly. From a cultural context perspective, it's also interesting how the film captures the nuances of contemporary dating, the awkwardness of technology, the blurred lines of modern communication, and the social pressures that shape how people meet and connect today. It's like a little time capsule of current dating culture, and when future viewers look back on it, they'll get a snapshot of how love stories were told in this era. Even though it's not historically set, the film's attention to detail in costumes, settings, and social dynamics subtly roots it in its own time, making the world it creates feel believable and immersive. This helps the audience feel grounded in the characters' experiences, even when the story takes familiar romantic turns. So, while it's not adding chapters to a sprawling saga or reenacting famous historical moments, A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be plays an important role as a snapshot of contemporary romance storytelling. It's part of a larger conversation about how we love and connect in the modern age, offering a fresh perspective that fits neatly into the evolving history of romantic films. Let's dive into the numbers game, because behind all the romance and laughs, every movie has a budget story that's just as interesting as the plot twists on screen. A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be comes across as a film that didn't need a blockbuster budget to deliver quality. It's more like a smart investment than an extravagant spending spree. The production values are solid, the sets look authentic, the costumes fit the characters perfectly, and the overall polish feels way above what you might expect from a modest budget. That means the filmmakers really knew how to stretch every dollar and get maximum bang for their buck. When it comes to box office, this movie didn't exactly blow up like a summer blockbuster, but that wasn't the point. It had a steady, respectable run, kind of like that reliable friend who doesn't make headlines but always shows up when you need them. The marketing played a big role in this. The campaign leaned into the charm and relatability of the story, targeting audiences who crave heartfelt rom-coms instead of flashy effects or action-packed sequences. It wasn't about saturating billboards or endless trailers, but more about reaching the right viewers through smart social media engagement and word-of-mouth buzz. Audience reception turned out to be the real engine driving its box office success. Viewers who connected with the story and characters became passionate advocates, sharing recommendations and keeping the film buzzing beyond its initial release window. That kind of organic enthusiasm can sometimes outshine the biggest marketing budgets, proving that genuine storytelling resonates more than expensive hype. This word-of-mouth momentum helped maintain steady ticket sales and even boosted streaming numbers once the film hit digital platforms. In comparison to big-budget rom-coms or franchises, this movie's financial journey feels like a win for indie and mid-range films. It shows that you don't need hundreds of millions of dollars to make a memorable movie that finds its audience and makes a respectable return. It's a reminder that sometimes smart budgeting combined with strong storytelling and targeted marketing can pay off just as well, if not better, than a flashy, over-the-top production. So while it might not have shattered box office records or dominated headlines, A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be proves that success comes in many shapes and sizes, and a film that connects authentically with its audience can absolutely hold its own in today's competitive movie market. If you're eager to experience A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be, you're in luck. This captivating film is readily accessible across various platforms, ensuring you can enjoy it at your convenience. For those who prefer streaming, the film is available on Dailymotion, where you can watch the full movie in HD with English subtitles. This platform offers a seamless viewing experience, allowing you to immerse yourself in the story without interruptions, and #X20. Additionally, YouTube hosts a playlist featuring all episodes of the film, also with English subtitles. This is an excellent option if you prefer to watch the film in segments or revisit specific scenes. YouTube.com 1. For those who enjoy watching on their mobile devices, the film is available on Google Play Movies and TV. This platform offers the convenience of watching on the go, ensuring you never miss a moment of the drama, and #X20. If you're interested in exploring more about the film's cast and production, IMDb provides detailed information, including cast lists and production credits. IMDb.com. To fully immerse yourself in the film's world, consider watching it on a larger screen, such as a smart TV or computer monitor, to appreciate the cinematography and details. Pairing the viewing with some cozy snacks can enhance the experience, making it a delightful movie night. Whether you choose to stream it on Dailymotion, watch it on YouTube, or enjoy it on Google Play, A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be is easily accessible, ensuring you can enjoy this romantic drama at your leisure. 1. https://www.youtube.com/playlist?list =PLSG2X 3 CNZQSBMCWKJQJW4J 3I108 DXVW &UTM _source =ChatGPT.com. Watch A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be full episodes YouTube. 2. https://www.imdb.com/title/TT3674528/UTM _source =ChatGPT.com. A Blind Date with My Mr. Meant-to-Be TV miniseries 2025. IMDb.